So let's bring in Republican Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming, a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Thank you so much for joining us on this important
thanks for
day.
having me. Great
So
to be
we
with
were
you.
just discussing, I mean, you met with the president, you had dinner with him.
Yeah.
Mike Pompeo was supposed to be there. So you've talked about the Iran deal
Yes.
and the status of it at this point. What did the president say first? And then we'll go to what Mike Pompeo had to say today.
Well, one, he said it was right to pull out of the Iran deal. I agree completely. He said it's going to make it easier to deal with North Korea because they're not going to be able to come and say, hey, we want the same deal of Iran. We can keep nuclear weapons, inspections when we say, continue with the missiles. So that wipes all that off of the table with the North Koreans. So the message today, I think, from Pompeo is he had multiple audiences. Our European colleagues who have been with us before, we want them to put pressure on Iran to say, look, you need to do a new deal. Talk is fine, but the demands are going to be firm. And then the people in Iran as well as North Korea, that's all part of the audience.
And you used the word firm, and that's how I described his speech today. I mean, he was very firm, talking about sanctions, saying, look, if you don't cooperate, Iran, then the sanctions are going to get worse. Because
we all know that Iran with a nuclear weapon makes the entire world less safe, less secure, less stable. The Iranian deal was a bad one to begin with. Even the French wanted to be tougher than what President Obama agreed to back in 2015. We paid all this money up front, but allowed them to continue with their ballistic missile testing and actual use, continued using money for terrorism. I think that the Iran deal just emboldened and enriched Iran rather than the opposite, which was the effect that I would have wanted.
Yeah, in terms of speaking directly to the Iranian people, which you mentioned several different audiences for this, he wrapped up the speech doing that. He also did that, you know, in the middle of the speech as well, talking about, you know, the leaders in Iran are not helping the people in Iran.
Yeah, well, the religious fanatics in Iran are making it harder on the people who live there. The sanctions have such an impact on the individuals, whether the economic sanctions, the oil sanctions, all of those have an impact. But the effort is to making sure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. The last deal gave them a path to the weapon and embolden them. And I think the president is absolutely on the right path, as is Mike Pompeo, which is why it was so important to give this speech today to say talk isn't off the table. We need to do a lot better and eliminate forever the risk of Iran with a nuclear weapon.
And also someone else watching this, of course, North Korea.
Well, in North Korea, with the upcoming talks, they need to know that this president is very serious about the impact of sanctions. He's going to continue with sanctions on North Korea, increase sanctions in Iran, and with the Iran deal, bringing other countries in, bringing in Saudi Arabia, bringing in Japan. North Korea also needs to know that it's not the people of North Korea, it's about the leadership.
Yeah, serious about sanctions, but also serious about diplomacy.
Well, we want to make sure we're going to use all the techniques we have. We're going to be economic, the fact of diplomacy. North Korea needs to know long-term military options remain on the table. So the president's very strong on this, very firm, and North Korea is going to realize it's in their best interest to eliminate the nuclear weapons from the entire Korean peninsula, and it has to be verifiable and enforceable.
So do you think that the summit is actually going to happen on June 12th? Do you think that Kim Jong-un will follow through?
Absolutely. Now, there are going to be lots of protests and complaints and threats before that, but it would be a mistake on his part to not show up for the summit. It's in his best interest, as well as North Korea's best interest, to participate in that summit, to come, to talk, and then in their long-term best interest to eliminate the nuclear weapons from North Korea.
Yeah, we'll certainly hope that it shapes up in just the way that you described. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Heather.
Have a great day.
Thank you.